Alright, so I promised to go on a little bit of a different adventure today for the Sunday vlog. And so we are here at the Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. area, close to Dulles Airport. This isn't the main Air and Space Museum, this is the extension. Interesting sculpture out here though. This is pretty neat. You guys know by now I'm a sucker for stork signs. I'm here with Little Rat, who does not want to be filmed, do you? She's got really shy all of a sudden. Okay, there it is. Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center, the Smithsonian Institute, National Air and Space Museum. It's been a minute since I've used this gimbal, so forgive me if it's a little weird. But man, this place is crazy. Again, I'm here to see a few very, very specific things, but wow, I mean, if you are into military aviation, this place, it's unbelievable. Okay. So I have spotted the two things that I've come here for. There's one, and right behind it, there's two. Let's go take a look. In the meantime, though, there's so much to see here. I mean, this place, it's unbelievable. And all you had to do is pay for parking. So here's what I've come to see. The SR-71 Blackbird, made by Lockheed. There's a reason for that. First and foremost, I've never seen one up close. These were primarily spy planes. And when I was a kid, my exposure to this plane, this aeronautic marvel, was through G.I. Joe and X-Men. The X-Men comics, that's what they flew around as a plane, was the Blackbird. And G.I. Joe had a toy Blackbird that you could buy. As an adult,
we're staring down the barrel of the engine right now. The back barrel of the engine.
I have another story about a Blackbird. Again, there's the Skunk Works logo. Designed. I'm not sure if it was built in Area 51. This was a Skunk Works project. These men that flew this were groundbreaking. They were very brave, because nobody had flown anything this fast. This thing used to take off in the desert, in the Nevada desert or California desert, I'm not sure which. And they had such a distance to climb with this thing that a lot of the UFO sightings in the Nevada area and California area were actually indeed these. And let me say this. To get to proper elevation, it took multiple states for these things to get up to its final elevation. Again, this was a spy plane. Here's my story when it comes to the Blackbird. The man who came up with the, or at least I named the channel The Giant Rat after, he had come up with the whole concept, just saying that, well, no wonder your kids are terrified of Mickey Mouse. They don't want to They don't want to say hello to a giant rat. And I explained the origin of that way back in I think January in one of my first weekly vlogs. That man was a former Air Force mechanic. He worked in the 70s and in the 80s. In the 80s he worked on F-15s. In the 70s, out in the deserts, I don't know if it was California, Nevada, where it was, what he worked on, what he was a mechanic for, and it was top secret, was this guy right here. He was an SR-71 mechanic, but you couldn't even take a model off of the base. He tried. He told me a story that he bought a model of the Blackbird at the PX on the base, and they wouldn't let him exit with it. I'm just, when I knew that I was going to pick up Mrs. Rat from the airport today, I've known for years that this thing has been here, and I've always wanted to come see it. And I thought that, of course, it would be very impressive, but not this impressive. I mean, this thing is so impressive, and it reminds me of my friend who passed away in 2020. Man that taught me a lot about a lot of different things. Was a good friend to this young buck. And here I am. Wonderful artist he was. A great man. Man of faith. So, I'm here, John. I'm here. And I'm looking at your bird. But if I'm being honest, the Blackbird wasn't the only thing I came here for. That thing's interesting. There is a NASA test plane over here. It's also a wing dedicated to the Cold War. We're going to have to go over there. Look at this thing. I definitely would not want to run into that thing or have it run into me. That would hurt. Okay, so I promised this girl that we would look at a spaceship. And we're gonna go look at a spaceship. It's dead ahead. Right there it is. You know what that is? What is it? Huh? What kind of spaceship? You know what that spaceship's called? It's a space shuttle. Look, there's an astronaut. It's astronaut gear. This, of course, is Discovery. Now, of course, growing up, my favorite spaceship, my favorite space shuttle, was the Columbia, and we all know what happened to that. But Discovery was one of the later space shuttles, I believe, if I remember correctly. Now, I've been to Kennedy Space Center, and I've seen the back of one of these things, and I believe it might have been Columbia that I saw the back of. I've never seen the entire shuttle. Again, I haven't seen a shuttle since the 1980s. It's just absolutely insane. I gotta be honest, I never thought I would see the space shuttle. There's the tiles. These are ceramic tiles on there that they use to conduct the heat, spread out the heat when they come back to Earth.
Hello there. The max crew was 8, so even though it's a huge vehicle, keep in mind it's just a no section max crew cap. So the typical crew was 6 to 7. For early flights, the test flights, you had a crew of 2. The max flight of any shuttle is an 8. So you had 4 on the flight deck, 4 seats on the flight deck, 4 seats on the mid deck.
I'm sorry, I'm not really talking too much or commenting. I'm just dumbfounded that I'm looking at Discovery. I'm just like completely gobsmacked. I'm standing in a hangar looking at a spaceship. There's the Canadian arm that deploys out of the bay. Man, and while I'm looking at all this, there's other spaceships right over here. Capsules. Mercury capsules. This place is amazing. Like, we just walked over from the shuttle, and over here there's a guy on a screen just answering questions live on a webcam. I mean, where am I? What is going on? Man, look how small that was. I can't believe how tiny that capsule is.
Plus, since you're sitting on top of the third stage of Saturn V, that top stage of Saturn V is the hydrogen. So your minus tank that's sitting on top is minus 400 degrees. So you've got to be able to vent that area as well. And around the corner here is the suit that was held lunar module pilot.
Man, I remember these. The old R2-D2 post office thing. Look at that phone booth. I'll never forget these Star Wars post collection boxes. Saw one of these in Savannah, Georgia years ago. This phone booth, man. I have never seen one of these. Yeah, see, I thought this was one of the newer shuttles. 1984 was the first mission. I'm just blown away by this. So this is a Mars rover. Just thought we'd come here for an hour or two. Then we have to pick Mrs. Rat up at the airport. Now this, back in the mid-'80s, hanging out of a hangar in Florida, this is what I saw. And that's all I've ever seen of one of these. This right here, hanging out of a hangar at Kennedy Space Center. See the char marks from coming into the atmosphere, coming down to Earth. This thing used to basically be on fire, like it would have flames coming out the back of it. You see that right there? It would be, it's so hot in the atmosphere that it causes all that heat and friction when it pierces the atmosphere. And it catches basically on fire. These tiles protect the people inside from the fire. And you can see it clearly did its job because look how charged it is. She's unimpressed. She's unimpressed seeing a spaceship. And here's all the rockets from the various missions over the years. There's a Korean rocket. There's a European Space Agency rocket. Again, I apologize for my gimbal work. This phone is pretty much too heavy for this gimbal. I'm not used to using it. I haven't used it in a couple years. And I'm not really stopping and talking too much about these things because I don't have that kind of time today. I just want to see the eye candy here today. What is going on with this thing? A Falcon missile. This is an air-to-ground Falcon missile. Air-to-air weapon. Tufts of string attached to show how air flowed over it during aerodynamic tests. Some models of the various rockets. It's an anti-submarine missile from the Navy. Looks like these are all some kind of drones, different types of drones the Air Force and the Navy, military use. For gearheads, that'd be something. These are all rocket engines. And there's a lot of like gearhead stuff here with the engines. These rockets, there's a Pegasus rocket from the Air Force. These things are amazing when they fire. All the flames coming out of them. My friend John told me a story about a guy that he had known on an aircraft carrier when he was working on F-15s. The guy got too close to the front of an engine on the 15. I think it was the front or the back, I don't know. People that know more than I do could probably elaborate on it. It did not end well for him. Not at all. Man, what is this thing? This thing has wood on it. The Rhinocter R1 was experimental German two-stage anti-aircraft missile tested in the last years of World War II. So this was built for the Luftwaffe for World War II. Restored to its original condition and paint scheme for the exhibit here. That's crazy. It's got fins of wood. This is the Bat missile from World War II.
During the short time when the ex-USSR had collapsed.
Folks, I just want to say there is so much to see here. I can't even remotely come close to covering it all and showing it all. I can just kind of give you the highlights here. You know, again, time's an issue, and you know, I mean, if you're interested in this stuff, you should really come here and see it. There's just so much in here, so much more than what I thought there would be. Wow. Alright, check this out. This is a John Glenn training couch. Astronauts in Project Mercury, the first U.S. human spaceflight program, experienced very strong G-forces during acceleration into space and deceleration during re-entry into the atmosphere. To better withstand these forces, each astronaut had form-fitting couches made for them to fit their bodies. This particular one was John Glenn's. That is crazy. Probably the most famous American astronaut. Wow, okay, this is cool. I didn't realize that the quarantine facility when they came back from space was an Airstream. That is cool. Wow. So this is where they were quarantined at when they came back from space. This is one of 4 built by NASA for astronauts returning from the moon to prevent contagions that might have been on the moon. As we know, no such thing. Now this is what I'm talking about. Mothership from Close Encounters. Absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. Now this is an interesting story here. This is their hangar where they're restoring stuff. Look at that plane. Wow.
This is the American aircraft that flew the most missions of any during World War II. It's truly an extraordinary World War II aircraft. Built in April 1943 from the Martin factory in Baltimore, Maryland.
Listen to this.
In August 1943 and the end of World War II, flew over 700 hours of combat against Nazi Germany, which accumulated to about 207 missions. And that's truly extraordinary in terms of aerial combat during World War II, where only a handful of aircraft reached 100 missions. And when you have crews flying between 25 and 35 missions before they rotate home, there were several crews who actually flew this particular airplane, Flack-Bait. The first pilot for Flack-Bait was Lieutenant James Farrell, who named it through a combination of the German word for anti-aircraft artillery, flak, and the name for the family dog back home, Flea-Bait, so Flack-Bait. And the airplane really lived up to its name over its career between 1943 and 1945, in which it accumulated over 1,000 holes through flak and shrapnel damage during combat flying over Western Europe.
I just can't get over right here is the Space Shuttle Discovery. It's just crazy. As a kid that grew up in the 80s, to see the space shuttle, it's just something. Actually taking the spacesuit. Man, I don't know, model builders. Lots of opportunity here to match up your paint schemes. I know a lot of you guys love the World War II model building. I wonder what's in there. We got something covered up there.
In which it accumulated over 1,000 holes through flak and shrapnel damage during combat flying over
And so again, I mean, they're restoring all kinds of stuff down here. I mean, that's a mechanic's dream shop down there. Definitely something I'd love to do, but man, I was never an airline or a plane mechanic. But man, spare parts, all the good stuff. Some of that stuff looks like it was made custom.
The assertion on how is done by committee out here of all the conservators. And each person has a vote. And they decide as a committee what level of restoration is going to be on what you decide. They're not x-rays. It's not making it easy. Is that excellent? Yes. You're welcome. How you doing? You have any questions about anything you're seeing?
Was it the B-25 or the B-26 that was made in Ypsilanti during World War II?
Just listening to the gentleman talk back there, and he mentioned that plane that was beat up and being worked on was actually at Pearl Harbor. He said a couple other things, but that was the bulk of what I got out of it, that it was at Pearl Harbor during the attack. Imagine it probably never got off the ground, but that's really something. Lots of World War II stuff down here. There's a bomber from Germany in World War II. Now this is really cool. There's something I want to see. These are commercial aircraft by the look of a lot of them. It's a crop duster. But I'm just moving back and forth here. There's so many things to see. I just don't even know where to look. These Japanese Zeros. We all know what this one's famous for, at least most of us. Those bombing raids in World War II. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I never thought I'd be this close to the cockpit. This is a World War II bomber. It's just unreal. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize it. This is the Enola Gay. I had no idea. This is the plane that dropped the first atom bomb on Japan. This very plane. My Lord. This plane launched the the atomic age. All right, time's getting short. It's time to get to business. A couple other things I want to see before I get called to pick Mrs. Rat up. There's so many things that I've had to skip just because of time. Just so many things. But with the time I have left, it's a few things that I just really wanted to see. And one of them is right ahead of me. Look at that Pan Am flight. That is really awesome. But what I come over here for is to see the Concorde.
Engines are at the back end of the vehicle.
Now, if you don't know the story of the Concorde, basically right here it is. It's the first supersonic airliner made from France, of course. France and British Airways made it. And they used to run them routinely as I was a kid, but the last flight happened because of I don't want to say the last flight, but this was basically discontinued because of a really terrible accident. Of course, they retired the Concorde in 2003, but throughout my life, this plane was an absolute marvel. There was no aircraft that could get you, no consumer aircraft would get you across the pond quicker than that thing.
On the lots, unlike the 17, we have one gun on each side with a gunner sticking that's in the window. This had two turrets on the bottom and top, each with two guns, and a wire controlled on the inside, so that if you have a gun on the left side, a plane flies over, you can take all except one, you have 8 guns that can point, that can swing across.
And just one last look at the Blackbird. Here is the Cold War exhibit. This is a MiG. If you were a child of the 70s or 80s, you know what a MiG is. And there it is, FA-18 Hornet and the Blue Angels. I have seen the Blue Angels a couple times in different places. And this, I believe, is a Tomcat. Yep. This is what Top Gun originally was about, like planes. This was Top Gun. This was the F-14. One of the most famous Cold War planes that there was. I used to have a G.I. Joe F-14. Oh. I had one of these too, a G.I. Joe plane. Cobra. What a gunship that thing is. All right. So that was our trip to the Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy wing of the Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum. Check this out. That's how close we are to the airport. Right at the end of our runway. Alright, so anyways, you get it. You saw it. Experience it with us. I hope you saw something you enjoyed. This isn't like necessarily my big geek out thing, but I wanted to see the space shuttle, tell that little story about my friend, talk about how he was a mechanic on the Blackbird. And I had heard about this place from a friend, and I actually did a little bit of research as to what it would take to get here, and I found out it's only like 15 minutes away from where I got to park to pick my wife up. So I thought I'd leave early, come down here, check it out. Here comes another one. All right, so that's going to do it for today. I really appreciate you coming along on this trip. I know it probably goes a little long. I didn't edit it yet, but I think it's going to be a longer one. We're going to get going, go pick up Mrs. Rat, an industrial rat. Oh, here comes another one. And then we'll be on our way back to Pennsylvania. Man, they are just coming in one after another. Awesome. Okay, so how we close this out? Touch some grass. Touch some grass. Or what? Or touch some grass. Touch some grass. Say it.
Torture.
She didn't do that very well. She's pretending like she has to sneeze. All right, touch some grass or a churro.